The Ricoh R1 is a little plastic camera that has captured my heart. Sadly for me, it took my heart, ripped it out, and stomped all over it. Let me explain. In early July at the Brisbane Camera Fair, I picked up two compact point and shoot cameras, the Ricoh R1 and the Yashica T3D. The R1 cost me just $65 US and the T3D cost me $90 US. The T3D is definitely a camera that is much more hyped and much more fancied and much more expensive than the Ricoh, but I was actually super excited to pick up the R1. As a fan of compact point and shoots, I've been looking at the Ricoh R and GR series for quite some time, and this is just so incredibly thin and compact. I was really happy and really excited to get out there and shoot with it. With the cheap price tag came a compromise. The LCD on the top is not particularly good. There's quite a few missing characters, and so I actually had to go into the manual and learn the sequence of different menu and flash modes to be able to work it properly. So before I tell you about my story of joy and then heartache, let me give you an introduction to the Ricoh R1. The Ricoh R1 was introduced in 1996, a very good year. I spent that year backpacking around Europe with a very chunky Pentax point and shoot camera. I wish I had this little bad boy with me then. The Ricoh R1 has an unusual focal length of 30mm with a maximum aperture of f3.5. Like a lot of 90s cameras, you can shoot in panorama mode. That's where little gates come down over the full frame and mask the full frame. And instead of the 36mm by 24mm full frame of film, you're actually only using 36mm by 12mm right there, the sort of center strip across the bit of film there. The Ricoh R1 has another nifty trick up its sleeve though, and that is the wide panorama mode. And when you go into that mode, it actually shoots not at 30mm, it shoots at a wider 24mm panorama mode at a set aperture of f8. Very cool. However, at that 24mm focal length, you can only shoot at f8 and you can only shoot panoramas. What I really like about those panorama modes is, of course, you get the framing guidelines through the viewfinder, which is not unusual, but still you kind of get that poor man X-Pan feel looking through the camera and framing up your panoramas. So there's a lot to like about the Ricoh R1. It is super light, weighing just 145 grams, which is just under 5 ounces. It takes a single CR2 battery, which brings the weight up to about 186 grams or 6.5 ounces with the battery and a roll of film loaded up. It has a super thin profile. Look at this. I've got a lot of compact cameras. I don't think any are quite as thin as this one though. That makes it the perfect camera to slip in your pocket or your jacket. You barely notice it's there. A lot of people will tell you that compact cameras they have are pocket cameras, but I don't think anything is quite as pocketable as this one. The lens is very sharp. It has a programmed electronic leaf shutter, and the shutter speeds range from 2 seconds to 1/400th of a second. The autofocus is very good. The R1 has 3 passive contrast detectors on the front of the camera. I don't think I've missed a single shot with this camera so far. It is very good in terms of its focus. And the auto exposure is very good. The R1 has automatic backlight control, so it is very good with the automatic program exposure. There's quite a few flash modes, most of which I didn't use, but one that might be of interest is the super night mode. With the super night mode, the Ricoh R1 takes a double exposure, one focused at infinity for your background and another for the foreground, which is illuminated by the flash. Very cool. So there's all the good stuff about the Ricoh R1. Let's talk about a few bad points now. The first one, the most obvious one, is the LCD. It's very difficult these days to find one of these cameras with a fully working LCD. You either get an LCD that doesn't work at all, or perhaps it has like chips out of the LCD that don't work, so it's kind of hard to work out which mode you're in or see what frame number you're on or work out what kind of flash mode you're in. So that's the first thing to talk about. The LCDs are not very good on these things. The second thing that can go wrong with the camera is the light seals, particularly at the back of the camera there. Just where the film window is, there is a light seal around there. After I finished my first roll, I opened up the camera. I wondered what all this black powder was on my hands and on the film roll. Of course, it was the light seal. It had completely disintegrated during my first roll, had a lot of light leaks on the first roll, but that can actually be easily fixed up if you put your own new foam light seal in, or you can just use a bit of black tape like I did. It worked perfectly for my second roll. And the third bad thing about the Ricoh R1 is that they can just stop working. Whether it's because of the motor or some other issue, sometimes they just stop working, and unfortunately there's not many people who repair them. Okay, let's talk about the 2 rolls of film that I shot with the Ricoh R1. Now, the first few images here, most of these were taken actually right outside the Brisbane Camera Fair. I got some film and I had a battery with me, loaded up in the Ricoh R1. I was so excited, I wanted to shoot straight away with this camera. So this is an old sort of abandoned house at Albion in Brisbane. I just love the old sort of house here on the right hand side of the image, the old wooden house. And of course you've got a hills hoist in the back garden. I love a good hills hoist. So that's the first image. I really love this. I think it looks really nice and sharp, great colors. This is Fujicolor C200 film. So let's go to the next image. This is at the bowls club nearby. There's like a lawn bowls club, very common here in Australia for mainly more senior people in their older years to play lawn bowls. Beautifully manicured greens and everything. And there's quite often there's nice roses and stuff around the lawn bowls places. Of course, the main thing you're looking at here though is not the roses, is it? It's the light leak. So you can see there on the right hand side, there's that red strip down the negative there, down the image. And of course, if a light leak is red, it's coming from behind the lens. If it's white, it's typically coming from in front of the lens. So because of the position and the color of that light leak, I knew it was, of course, the film window there, which is why I put the black tape on it. But still, I think it's a nice image. It looks great, apart from the light leak, or maybe because of the light leak. So the second image here is of Breakfast Creek in Brisbane. And again, you've got the light leaks on the roll. But when I saw images like this, I was just really pleased. I thought, yeah, I'm gonna fix this light leak up and go out shooting again. It's gonna take some banger pics for sure. The third image here is a close-up of a hills hoist in a back garden, a different one. I think this was in Cleveland, but I really like this. It's kind of got, you know, the hills hoist is kind of in focus and the background is kind of nice. So I did really like this image, and it sort of gave me a lot of encouragement, this first roll. I thought, yeah, it's got a lot of promise, this camera, and I couldn't wait to shoot a second roll. Still on the first roll here, and we see some pegs here on the washing line, and you can sort of see the top of the washing line is kind of out of focus. So I'm not sure what kind of aperture it's shooting this at. But yeah, it kind of looks really nice. The depth of field looks really good on this lens. The next image is one of the first panoramas I shot. These are some beautiful orange flowers here. And look at those colors. You've got the nice oranges and the greens and the blues. And this is in cropped panorama mode, f8. I think it looks fantastic. And yeah, I'm not usually a fan of cameras where they crop the negative down, but I think this looks cool. And the last image from this first roll I shot through the R1. Look at this. This is a beach at Victoria Point, and there's this beautiful little dinghy or boat there, and it looks lovely. You've got the sun on the boat, and the rest is kind of, the background's kind of nice and out of focus. I think this is lovely, and this is exactly, when I saw this, I thought, yeah, this has got a lot of promise, this camera. Can't wait to shoot another roll with this. So just after I got the results back from my first roll, I actually had a little trip planned down to the Australian capital city of Canberra. So I took my Polaroid SLR 680 with me, and you can see the results of my little 24-hour Polaroid challenge in another video on this channel. And I also took the Ricoh R1, and I loaded the Ricoh R1 up with my favorite film, ColorPlus 200. Of course, I have dissed ColorPlus in the past, but I thought, hey, I'm gonna give ColorPlus another go just to see what it's like. Now, I didn't take a camera bag or a backpack or anything with me. I sort of carried around my Polaroid in my hand. It was pretty big and chunky, but the Ricoh R1 just fit in my pocket, whether it was my pants pocket or my jacket pocket. It is so light and so thin, so unobtrusive. You know, people talk about pocket cameras, but the Ricoh R1 is a true pocket camera, and I absolutely loved walking around with that. Later on, I ditched the Polaroid at night or at dusk, and I walked around just with the R1. It was really liberating, and I absolutely loved it. So now I'm going to show you some of the favorites from that second roll I took on ColorPlus 200. So first, let's have a look at the contact sheet here. This looks amazing. Look at this. It's just a complete ride of color. When I saw this contact sheet, I was so happy. Look at all the bright colors. Every single exposure looks fantastic. The panoramas look cool. I was very, very excited when I saw this, and I couldn't wait to have a look at the images more in depth. So just outside my room at the hotel I was staying at, there was this kind of, it was a very cool hotel, the QT Hotel in Canberra. It had sort of a very retro, alternative kind of vibe to it. And just outside my room, there's this beautiful red curtain and this beautiful sunlight coming through. If you've watched my other videos, you'll know that I took a Polaroid here, which I absolutely love. And look at this image here, it looks fantastic. The colors, the metering, everything looks great. Focus, the R1's done a fantastic job there. The next image is at the National Gallery of Australia. It's that ball in the sky I took a Polaroid of as well. This one looks great. Some really nice kind of grain there. I'm not sure, I guess that's the film, the ColorPlus 200 film. I really like the look of this. It's got a nice kind of warm look to it. It looks really cool. The next shot is of those flagpoles. Again, I took a Polaroid of this. I don't particularly like this shot or the Polaroid shot I took of the flags, but hey, you can still see like how sharp these flags are, even though I don't really like the image. These flags are sharp, like this is a good lens on this camera. If you're enjoying this video, please help me out by telling your friends, giving this video a thumbs up and leaving a comment down below. And if you love my content, you can also help me out by buying me a coffee. There's details on how to do that in the video description. And thanks so much to my latest two very kind supporters, Garon and Naomi. Thank you so much. The first panorama is one of some buildings with these beautiful trees and flowers. And I just think this looks fantastic. Of course, it's shot at f8. And yeah, the metering, everything about this camera, it's so easy to use and it gives fantastic results. And this panorama is no exception. This next shot is outside the Canberra pool, swimming pool, I think, the public baths. It looks really cool. It's like some old 50s wall or something like that. And I just love the shapes and the colors here. So you've got the sort of yellowy brown of the footpath and these beautiful blue wall with a white sort of diagonal, not white, diagonal, white diamond kind of shapes, whatever shapes they are, it looks pretty cool. The next image is at what I called Floriade. It's not Floriade, it's Floriade apparently. I don't know how you would pronounce that, Floriade. It's very posh, Floriade. But the next image is of the flower festival in Canberra that was on when I was down there. And look at these tulips, these yellow tulips look fantastic. The colors, the yellows and the greens, they look sharp, beautifully exposed, really fantastic job. The next one is of the National Gallery of Australia. That's outside the gallery there before I went in. Another panorama. This was at, I think this was at dusk, just when the sun was going down. And I took this shooting into the sun and you know, it's not a perfect shot, but I think it looks really good. Given that it was a little bit dark, I think that the focus and the metering, I think it looks really, really nice. Looking up at a building here, and this looks great. You can see a bit of a vignette coming in there, but I really like that. I kind of like lenses with a bit of character. Even though they may not be perfect, I really like little point and shoot cameras with a bit of character to them, so this looks really cool. On my way out for dinner, I saw these lights at a building. I thought they looked really cool, so I took an image of that. That looks cool. This was quite late at night. Remember, I'm shooting with 200 speed film. I took this image. I don't think it's very sharp. I think perhaps the shutter speed was, I don't know, half a second, 1 second maybe. I was quite still. It's not super, super sharp if you're gonna really peep into it too much. I still think it makes an amazing shot. Handheld, at night, 200 speed film, great job. This is back inside the hotel, and I really like the way you can just sort of see the, the bright lights of the QT there and the lights near those curtains. It looks very, very nice. This is in the morning now at the hotel, and I took a Polaroid here that I absolutely love. And this image with the Ricoh R1 looks really nice as well. Great colors, great metering. It looks really nicely exposed. I probably prefer the Polaroid for this shot, but I still think this one's nice as well. This is looking up at a building, and I took two shots. I took one in panorama mode there, which is quite bright, quite good. And the other in normal sort of mode, which is a little bit darker, which is interesting. Look at the difference between the colors of the sky. You know, the difference in the color of the blue sky looks really quite interesting. But yeah, I like both shots. This is back at that building with those nice kind of flowers. No idea what kind of flowers they are. But again, I think this looks really nice. Now we're jumping around back to the hotel here. There's a couple of shots in a row of the hotels. This kind of nice kind of lounge area with a big green vase and the curtains and the sun streaming in. And then this is my view from breakfast out to the sort of outdoor area. But you can sort of see the nice sun coming in there and just the shadows, the tables and chairs looks pretty cool. So that's it. That is my images from this second roll of film I shot with my Ricoh R1 with ColorPlus 200. So although I love the Ricoh R1 and I was so excited by seeing that second roll of film I put through it, this story does not have a happy ending. I went to load a third roll and guess what? It doesn't work anymore. When I load the roll of film into the camera, it all sort of winds on fine, but then when you press the shutter button, it takes a photo, the aperture blades don't even open, and it turns off immediately. So unfortunately, although I've tried this quite a few times, it's just not working. Every single time it shuts off after trying to take one photo. To say that I'm bummed is an understatement. I was so excited to shoot with this camera. It's made me more excited to shoot film than any other camera probably this year. It's so light, so compact, and the results are outstanding. So I was hoping to get more than 2 rolls out of it. Sadly, it looks like it's destined for the scrap heap. Now you might think that this experience has put me off the Ricoh R1. Haha, not at all my friends. I'm actually scouring eBay at the moment trying to find a replacement. And this time I'm hoping to get one with an LCD that works. Unfortunately, they're not cheap. You're probably looking at between $200 and $300 US. Again, this is a risk, buying a camera that could fail at any time. However, I really did have an affinity with this camera and I feel like it's my destiny to get another one. Have you used any of the Ricoh R cameras or any of the Ricoh GR cameras? I would love to hear about your experiences. Drop a note below in the comments.